So welcome. We are going to get started. And again, I would love it if you would introduce yourself. What you're going to find is that the more you play with me in my sandbox, the more I will shine for you. You'll get way more out of me than I planned if you play and interact with me. So I'd love it if you would just hop into the chat, introduce yourself, your name and where you're from. That would be great. I'm going to introduce myself fully in a few moments so everyone will get all the dirty little details about who I am and what I'm all about. But I'd love it if you would go ahead and introduce yourself right away. And thank you so much for doing that. I'm also going to invite you to turn off all your distractions, and actually that's a really good reminder for me to put my phone in airplane mode, right? Because otherwise it will ring. My mom usually calls me Wednesday nights, which is great. I love her to pieces, and she always forgets that I teach Wednesday nights. So I'll call her back, but it's on airplane mode for now. Hi, Cody, and you're from Texas. Welcome. So glad you're with me. That's great. And I'd love to know where everybody else is from as well. I'm asking you to turn off your distractions because I'm going to give you a lot of information, some of it about iridology, some of it about successful business in the next 75 minutes. And I know that when I multitask, I don't do a good job of one of the things, right? So if I think I'm listening to a webinar and I'm maybe working on my accounting, I know darn well that I'm actually focused on the accounting and the webinar is just in the background and I'm not going to get anything out of it. So you've set aside this 75 to 90 minutes tonight. So I'm just going to ask you really be focused with me so you get the bang for your buck. Make it time well invested. And we've got Teresa from Calgary. Woo, Teresa, I'm in Calgary too. That's very cool. And Cody says, I'm in love with the stuff, but I won't be able to stay. Kids are in demand. I'll try to catch another. Yeah, do your best to stay if you can, or for as long as you can. That would be great, Cody. And we've got Elizabeth from Gimli, Manitoba. Welcome. So glad you're with us tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for setting the time aside. That is amazing. So you ready to roll? Yeah? You ready to rock on and make this happen? Tonight, we are going to be talking about iridology and your health coaching business. And we are actually going to build that into this topic of 4 key strategies that will help you get your client programs created in your paid client sessions without working overtime and missing time with loved ones. Now, I would love to get to know you a little bit more as well, to know a little bit about your background. I would love it if you would let me know what kind of training you've got. Do you have nutrition or herbology or homeopathy or aromatherapy, or what kind of holistic health training do you have? And do you have any iridology training as well? That would be really great for me to know, because I'm going to tweak this presentation on the fly. I'm going to adapt it to the needs of those of you who are actually with me. So Elizabeth is Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. Go CSNN. That's awesome. Fabulous. That's wonderful. Okay, so again, we're a small group. This concept of iridology is a very niche group, right? You know, when you look at talking to people about iridology, most of them have no idea what you're talking about. And so this is a very tiny group. And because of that, I really rely on you to help me keep my energy up by playing with me in the chat box. And Teresa's also a CSNN grad. Yay, go CSNN. I did not graduate from there. I only learned about CSNN about 4 years ago. And if I hadn't already completed my nutrition training like 25 or 30 years ago, I would probably choose CSNN as my school. As a matter of fact, I've actually thought about going back and re-credentializing, is that a word? Because I think CSNN is so amazing, so amazing. As we get going tonight, I'm going to give you these 4 key strategies, but in order to give you the strategies, to give these strategies context, we need to talk about the 4 key problems that most holistic practitioners experience when they're running their businesses. And I have faced all of these challenges myself, and I'm going to turn my camera off because it drives me crazy to have it turned on right there. So You're going to keep hearing me, but you're not going to keep seeing me. There we go. And so we're going to talk about these 4 key problems that most holistic practitioners experience when they're running their businesses. And I know that these are key. I suffered from them early on in my business, and just about every practitioner that I speak with has at least 1 or 2 of these, if not all 4 of them. Our group on these webinars, again, is always small, so I'm really inviting you to play with me in my sandbox. And, you know, if I ask for some input or some involvement, please give it to me. You're going to find I shine better when you play. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you are ready to do any of these things right now. Are you ready to have your confidence boosted as far as a holistic practitioner goes? Are you ready to get tips on how to keep your client sessions on time? And are you ready to learn how you can free up time by getting your client programs developed in your paid client sessions instead of working overtime to get them done? If you are ready for any of those, and Elizabeth has given me, yeah, she's saying I am. Woohoo! Go, Elizabeth. Thank you. Thank you. That is awesome. And Teresa, I'd love to know if you're ready for all this too, because first we are going to find the problems and in order to fix them, we have to identify them, right? And Teresa's ready to, yes. Then we're going to look at how Iridology can help you solve these problems as well. All of these problems are solvable without Iridology. But when we add Iridology, it's like, I don't know if this is really a safe thing to say in a group of holistic practitioners, but it's like the solutions on steroids. Okay, things really go amazingly, go boom, and just get so much bigger and better when we add Iridology. So the first problem is you don't feel as confident as you want to when you're doing client sessions. So how confident do you feel when you're with a client? Do you actually have the confidence to make the recommendations right then and there while you're face to face with your client? Do you really? Or do you experience imposter syndrome? Do you know what imposter syndrome is? It's that little niggledy voice in the back of your brain that says, who do you think you are that you should know enough to be able to help this person? Like, who do you think you are? You don't know enough. When we have that imposter syndrome, and it is such a challenge with holistic practitioners, it just sabotages your confidence in a heartbeat. Now we're going to circle back to this in a few minutes, and I'm going to give you steps that you can use that you can actually start implementing right now to start turning this whole confidence issue around. But first, let's look at 3 other problems that are really, really common. So I'm going to ask you a question here, and I'd love to see an answer in the chat box. First off, are you seeing clients now? Do you have clients that you work with, nutrition clients or herbal clients? Yes? If yes or no? Give that to me in the chat box. Some? Yeah, so that's a yes. Some is a yes. You're seeing some clients. That's okay. I didn't say is it like 27 every day. I just asked, do you see some? So yes, that's great. That is fabulous. How many hours does it take you to create a program for your client, for each client? I'd love to see that in the chat box. Now, if you're afraid to put an answer in, oh, Elizabeth, great, 2 to 3 hours. Yeah, okay, that's fabulous. Thank you. Thank you for being a little bit vulnerable there, right? Anyone else want to weigh in on that? I spoke with one practitioner a year ago who said she spends 20 hours creating a program. Do you see any problems with that? With spending 20 hours to create one program? I sure did. Now, Elizabeth, I'm right there with you. I used to spend 3 to 4 hours for every 1 paid hour that I was with the client creating programs. Now that, I finally clued in that wasn't a smart way to run a business. How many other professionals do you know who actually give time away? Where they charge you for the hour that you're with them, and then they give you extra time. Like my massage therapist doesn't. Oh, I really wish she would. My physiotherapist doesn't. My dentist doesn't. My accountant doesn't. Elizabeth, you're right. None of them do. Every one of them charges for everything. If you've ever needed legal assistance, they keep track of every paper, every stamp, every envelope, every minute on the phone, and you get an itemized bill at the end of the project with every little hiccup, burp, and fart. Pardon the crudeness of that, but it's true, right? They get paid for every minute. Why do we feel like we have to give 2 or 3 hours extra for every hour we're paid for? You ever wonder that? We're going to circle back to this in a few minutes because it's destroying your business. It destroys your ability to actually provide for your family or pay your own bills. And ultimately, it can destroy your self-esteem and your confidence. So problem number 3, what have you tried for finding new clients? Are you frustrated with constantly having to find new clients? What have you actually tried? I'd love you to be typing that in while I tell you this little bit of a story. I used to do trade shows. I would take my business out to these little community trade shows and, spend a day or two. We traveled all over Southern Alberta doing these trade shows, and my husband, bless his heart, was always there with me. He'd always help me set up my booth. He would man the booth. He's a great person, so that I could go and, go to the bathroom or get something to eat. And out of all the money I spent, all that time away from the office, I never picked up a new client. Now, maybe I don't know how to work trade shows. That's a definite possibility. But here's the problem. Many of us, and I want to see if this is you, many of us in the holistic healing industry are introverts. We're not party animals. Is that you? Do you like, yes? Yes? Okay. Elizabeth, I love it with exclamation points. That's beautiful. Thank you. We're introverts, and Teresa says yes too. Absolutely. Yeah, we are introverts. And so the idea of doing a trade show is enough to give us nervous breakdowns because we're surrounded by all of these people, all this loud noise, and we're having to try to connect with people one-on-one. Go figure. It doesn't work. And so it was really hard. Like, talk about a massive failure experience. Oh my goodness. I can teach people. I can even teach in front of a crowd of 500 people or 1,000 people. That's not a problem because I don't have to interact with each of them individually. I can interact with them as a collective mob, if you will. And I love teaching my other classes. They're online, and even when they were face-to-face, because it was only 20 or 30 and it was a controlled group and things like that. But these mobs at these trade shows, no way. So, I also looked for places to give free lectures. Out of all of the free workshops I've done over the decades, and I've done quite a few, I've gotten exactly 1 client out of that. I now consider when an organization asks me to do a presentation, first off, I find out, are they not-for-profit or are they commercial? If they're not-for-profit, I will gladly pay it forward. And if they're commercial, I charge them, right? I've also tried flyers. Here's the statistics. Have you tried flyers? Because there's some really bizarre statistics about hard copy flyers. This is what it comes down to. In order for a flyer to be successful, you have to deliver the exact same flyer to the same address every 2 weeks for 7 times. 7 times. That's a lot in order to get a 1% return. So deliver flyers to 100 houses, the same 100 houses 7 times over at 2-week intervals, and you might get 1 phone call back. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of wasted effort. So it's not a great idea. I tried it, printed up my own flyers, delivered them myself. I did it over the summer when it was nice in the mornings. And you know what? It was just good exercise. Yeah, because I used to run. I used to literally run from door to door. Okay, so the other reason we have to find new clients is, and tell me if this is true, is that your clients only come in for 1 or 2 appointments and then they disappear. Is that a problem for you? They come in once or twice. They come in once. You maybe go off and spend 3 or 4 hours creating a program for them. They come back, you give them the program, and then they disappear. Elizabeth, yes? Yeah. How's that feel? Is that working for you? That's the idea here, is we need to make a consumable product that they have to come back and get again and again, right? Because that's how you guarantee business. That's why coffee shops work, is people consume it. And so What we need to do is we need to figure out why that happens, why they come in once, then they come in for the program, and then they never come back. And I figured out solutions to these things. I've got a ton of clients who've been with me for 5 or 10 years. In fact, I've got quite a handful that have been with me for over 35 years. I've got clients where we're now on 3rd generation, where yes, the clients from 35 years ago are still coming in, but I helped them have their babies 35 years ago, and now those babies are having babies, so they're coming in for my help as well. And so that's what we want. We want to have clients who have longevity with us, where we create that rapport with them so their family wants to come in, so multi-generations. And we want to create the kind of a business where people talk about us, where they refer in their friends, but we also want to make it so that the people we're already working with, the clients we're working with, actually want to keep coming back. Does that sound like a good plan? Okay, we're going to circle back to all of this in just a minute. So maybe this is the 4th problem. Maybe you've struggled with all of this stuff of having to find new clients and the imposter syndrome. And maybe it's just circling in your head, you know, I should just get a real job. But you don't want to. It's not a good thing to feel, is it? It makes you wonder if you did the right thing to go to nutrition school. I mean, you did. It's good training, right? But you dreamed you'd have a business, and maybe it's not happening quite the way you want it to. So let me know in the chat which of these things are problems that are dogging you. Is it 1, you don't feel totally confident to give advice to your clients face-to-face when you're with them that first time? Number 2, maybe you're giving your time away creating programs. Is it number 3, your clients come in once or twice and then they ghost you? Is it 4, you're starting to feel like you should just get a real job? I really want to see that in here. 2, 3, and 4, Elizabeth, thank you. Thank you for weighing in on that. Anybody else want to be vulnerable? Elizabeth, I just appreciate your being so vulnerable here, because yeah, really, yeah. Again, these are all issues that I've struggled with. They're issues that a lot of practitioners have struggled with. And I'm just going to let you know that, Elizabeth, you're bold, because this was a trick question from the perspective of very few people have just one of these things that they are having troubles with. For most of us, it's way more than that. So I want to make sure you stay to the very end so that you get all of the information I've got for you today. So if you stay to the very end, I'm going to have a little reward for you. And it is something that is going to help you organize your client sessions within each session more effectively, so that you can actually guide your thinking to create a program right while you're with your client, rather than spending 2 or 3 extra hours doing it. So you're going to stay with me. If you're going to stay with me to the end to get this, I want to see an I'm staying in the chat box. Okay, so let me know you're staying with me so that I know to keep my energy up for you and give this to you. And Elizabeth is staying. Good job, Elizabeth. Thank you. Anybody else want to stay too? We're going to have a little party here. And Teresa's staying. Yay! Anyone else? Okay, so here's the real problem with all of this. And Kathleen is, yes, thank you, Kathleen. Well, that's fabulous. Okay. And if anyone else wants to weigh in on that one, please do. Here's the problem. And this might come as a shock. The way you were taught to create programs when you went to nutrition school or herbal school or whatever your training is doesn't actually work. It eats up your time, it sucks up your energy, and it kills your dreams. And I'll tell you, I've been in all 3 of those places. I want to know if this sounds at all like what you had dreamed of. Remember, I started this business 40 years ago when we had a very young family. Okay, so back then, and my dream is pretty much the same now, slight tweaks in here. Back then, my dream was to have a happily full appointment book and to be able to get home or to the soccer field or the hockey rink. Actually, for us, it was the soccer field for my kids' games every time. I wanted to help my clients feel successful for working with me. I wanted my clients to feel like if they didn't come back for another appointment, they'd be missing out on the very best thing since forever. And I really wanted to feel successful. Now, the only way this has changed for me right now is that my kids are all grown and gone. And so now I want to be able to get to my grandkids' soccer games and to their concerts and to their special events. And so that is what I work on achieving, right? This is me and my wonderful family. So you can obviously pick out which one is my husband. 7 of these precious people are our children. 5 of them are our children from another mother. That's what we call our children-in-law, because I don't like calling them in-laws. They're my children from another mother, and I'll let you guess who's who. And then the 8 youngest ones here are our delightful grandchildren. All right, so I grew my business as a health coach while we were having our children. And that's really important for you to know, because we're all busy, but I was busy. It really was. I started the business after our first son was born. And there were a lot of years when I had a nursing baby in the office with me, and I would just explain to my clients, I've got a nursing baby who's going to be with us. And if that's a problem for you, I will refer you. I'll give you somebody else's name that you can go to, because I'm not putting my baby on the bottle, and my baby will be with us. And nobody complained. They were all fine with that, which was cool. There were times when I would be teaching a face-to-face class and I would have a nursing baby with me. And it's just how it was, because that's how it went. And so we gradually added all of these kids into our family. Now, you might not have a large family of young children. Maybe you've got animals that need care. Maybe you've got aging parents that need care. Maybe you've got adult children who need help. Maybe your heart is in a volunteer organization and you really love donating a lot of time there. So I get it that we're all busy. But what's important here is that you're learning all of these tips that I'm going to share with you today. You are learning them from someone who has done it through probably the busiest time of life. And while doing that, I added credentials in herbology, nutrition, flower essences, aromatherapy, emotional freedom technique, VitaFlex, biokinesiology, and 3 different styles of iridology. Yeah, wedge that in around the kids. Figure out how to do that one. I've not accepted everything that I've been taught. I have a very inquisitive mind. I actually have a mind that is kind of warped, and that I'm always saying, really? How does that work? Why is that effective? And it means that as I was learning, I was constantly turning things over in my head, testing things, throwing things away that didn't work, keeping things that did. Now, I know that most of us also, in this day and age, very different from what it was 40 years ago. Many of us work under government restrictions of what we can say and what we can do, right? Is that something that you're experiencing, that there are things that you cannot say and things you cannot do, even though you've got the training that you should be able to do it? The beautiful thing about iridology is it actually helps you to stay within those parameters. If you're not allowed to diagnose, if you're not allowed to prescribe, iridology can really help you understand your client at a deeper level that can help you create programs without diagnosing and without prescribing, which is really exciting. And I will tell you that out of all the styles of iridology, the one I finally landed on that feels good, that really works, that's where I've stayed for the last nearly 30 years with iridology. But 35 years ago, there I was struggling to get my work done. I was working tons of overtime creating those client programs. Hubby and I had 2 kids under the age of 5, and I was pregnant with baby number 3. I was depleted. I was passionless, and I was starting to resent my clients and my business. I don't know if that sounds familiar to any of you. Does it? It was hard. It was really hard. And I remember thinking clearly, I said, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to walk away from this. I'm going to get a job. There's got to be something better. Hubby is an artist, and it wasn't quite enough income to support the family. So I had to find a way to add to the income. And it was just really hard. I believed back then that every client deserved an individualized program. And so I was spending the extra time to create that because I didn't know how else to do this. And it just wasn't working. I want to know, am I the only one who's ever struggled like that? Elizabeth, you've done it too? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else ever struggled like this with the frustration and the overwhelm and the feeling like this is so not working? So here's just how a typical day would go for me back then. I would see a client for the very first time, and all of my appointments were scheduled to last an hour. This is way before the internet, right? Back when personal computers didn't exist. Okay, just dated myself there. But I would ask my clients to arrive 15 minutes early. They never did. And I would say, I need you here 15 minutes early. I've got some paperwork I need you to do, and I don't want it to cut into your appointment time. But they would show up like at the stroke of when their appointment was supposed to start. So then we would eat up 10 or 15 minutes of their appointment time filling in this paperwork. It never dawned on me I should just schedule their appointments differently. And so now we've got like 45 minutes left for me to figure out what we're doing. And I'm asking her questions based on what she's put down on her questionnaire. And I'd start building and going off on tangents and, oh, that answer means we've got to go here, and this answer means we've got to go there, and this answer means we've got to go somewhere else. And I was wandering around and meandering. I couldn't seem to create a cohesive program. We'd be at that full 1 hour mark and I'd still be asking questions. I still didn't have it gelled in my head. I knew a ton of stuff. I knew what to do for all kinds of things, but I couldn't figure out how to pull it all together or how to put it in the right order. And so finally at the 90-minute mark, I'd be giving her something to work on, and I'd schedule her next appointment for like 3 or 4 weeks away, send her off with a little bit of homework. And I would then, and it was usually way too much homework actually, then I would go and I would spend hours creating her program. And then the morning of the next appointment, she'd call and cancel. And I'd be thinking, heck, what's going on here? I gave her 2 hours. I only charged her for 1. She's not even coming back for her program. My goodness, like that's, and it just really started circling in my head. Just get a real job. You'd make more money with less stress working at McDonald's. Yeah, so I did. I tried to get a job. I tried to get an office job. I figured, I'd worked in office jobs throughout high school and summer jobs in university. Figured I was pretty hot stuff. What I learned when I went for job interviews and did typing tests, okay, it was called typing back then, not keyboarding, was that nobody wanted a slow typist, right? They would hire that as a summer student. They would hire that as a part-time job or a temporary job, but not as a full-timer. So I was basically unemployable. Felt like a loser, pretty sure that I'd just be a waste of time and energy, except for my children and my family. But I also knew that I was on the leading edge of something. This nutrition thing was just starting to kick off, this holistic health style. We were just coming out of the 70s, the hippies and the granola crowd, right? And I knew it was big. It was starting to get big. It was the leading edge of the tsunami. And it's what I wanted. I wanted to make this work. And I loved the natural health business. And I loved working with people one-on-one. I loved seeing their lives change. So I knew I had to figure out a way. And that was when I decided that there had to be a way. Absolutely had to be. So I decided I was going to figure this out. I was going to make it work. And that's how I got into coming up with this solution. I learned more. I already knew some forms of iridology. They weren't working for me. I heard about another one just as I was about to walk away from iridology altogether, because it's a lot of what was costing me a lot of extra time. Heard about this other style. I'd go and see what it was all about. And I did. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is my dream come true. This is what I needed. So that was constitutional iridology, and that is what made the difference. It actually made it so that I could pull in the nutrition and the herbology and understand my client on a deeper level really quickly and really clearly. And I could create a program right now that would take my client to the next level. And then when they got to that level, they would want to come back to go to the next level. It was magical. It was brilliant. And so as I learned how to do that, as I sorted through how to do that and figured it all out, it really became clear. And that is why I teach this class, is because I want to help holistic practitioners skip over all of the agony that I went through and that I know that most of them are going through. There were two critical things that I learned on this journey, and I want you to hear these clearly, because I think these two things are probably true for you right now as well. The first one is that you actually know, if you've got training, for example, some of you are CSNN grads, you actually know enough nutrition to help your clients without doing any extra research, without actually creating a 27-page document for them. You know enough nutrition. What you probably don't know, and I want you to tell me in the chat box if this is really true, is that you maybe don't know how to identify, sort, and prioritize what needs to happen in that program to keep it simple and concise. That sounds like it might be accurate for you, that you maybe need help understanding how to actually get from where they are to the next step to the next step. And Elizabeth's saying you nailed it. Yeah, right? And that's the thing they don't teach you in school. Right? It took me a decade to figure out that they didn't teach me that in school, like the one-handed slap on the forehead, right? Can you imagine being able to get your client programs designed right in your paid client sessions? What would that feel like? How would that change your life? I want to see some comments here. Again, we're a small group. So, and Elizabeth, thank you for weighing in on so many things. I love that. And keep weighing in. I'm not saying stop talking to me, but I'd love to hear from the rest of you. What would your life be like? How would your business change? How would your life change if you didn't have to spend time outside of your client sessions creating client programs? What would that look like? While you're typing that in, I'll tell you what it looked like for me. It meant I had more time to see clients, but I also had more time to be with my family. Right? It meant that my income like tripled, and I was working less. And it's not that I was charging more. It's that I was actually giving better client sessions. And my clients were getting the success that I wanted them to have, that they wanted to have. So what would it be like for you if you got all of your work done while you were in your paid time with your clients? What do you think? While you're typing, I'm going to share with you what one of my students said. This is Karen Choate. She came to me as a certified natural health practitioner, and she specializes in digestive health. She'd been practicing for several years and still sometimes had problems figuring out where to begin and where to go and how to craft the program. She knew her stuff. I mean, she's a smart girl. I call her a girl because she's just a little bit younger than I am. And she got interested in iridology. She took the course. And as the course progressed, she shared with me, she wasn't even done the course. She said that she'd begun to implement this incredible work. These are her words, in my practice quite successfully. It truly has helped immensely in my decisions and assessments. I am definitely a much more confident nutritionist now, which I was so excited about because she already came into me quite confident. I thought she was. But the program really started to gel it for her. And boy, she's on top of things now. So I want you to imagine, what would it feel like to have no unpaid homework? You're not having to work overtime for free, creating those client programs. What would it feel like if you could confidently create that program on the spot? What would it feel like if you had more free time? What would you do with that free time? Would it be family time? Would it be volunteer time? Would it be recreational time? Would you see more clients? What would it feel like if you had clients who couldn't stop telling their friends about you? I haven't advertised in decades. My business is really strictly word of mouth. And when you've got happy clients, they refer. They say, you've got to go see this person. She is so good, right? And that's what you want. You want clients who are absolutely raving about you constantly. So let me know in the chat box, which of these 4 things do you want the most of? Or do you want all of them? So we're going to start diving into how you solve those problems, how you get that, how you get that. Do you want that? Do you want any of these things? All of them, Elizabeth? Yeah, all of them? All right, then Elizabeth, I'm going to be talking to you. The rest of you, listen in. Listen in. I'm going to give you some very specific steps today to help you, that'll give you back time, that'll help you create repeat business. But I do want you to know that every one of these steps will work, but they will work so much better when you add dynamic iridology to it. So the reason I'm hosting this workshop tonight is because I've proven it time and time again with my students who've gone on to have the same success that I'm promising you right now. It's that dynamic iridology, the dynamic iridology assessment system is the simplest and quickest way to get control of your client hours, to grow your business, and to have the impact that you want to have while putting you in complete control of your time and ability to make money. Now, at any time during this web class, if you're thinking, holy moly, this is amazing, I want to dive deeper, I want the training and I want the mentoring, I'm going to tell you at the end of this webinar how you can make that happen. Because you won't ever be highly successful if your confidence is sagging. And I'm here to support you in getting your professional confidence up and creating the wellness coaching business you've envisioned. Stumbling block number 1. And as we go through these, I want you to think, really do that hard introspection of, am I doing this? All right, stumbling block number 1. I've seen this in people who are new grads. I've seen this in people who've been in practice for decades. You fire hose your clients with too much information. Remember I said before that you weren't taught how to create a program in school? This is exactly what I'm talking about, because in school we were given case studies to work on. Here's the person, here's the problem, write a program. So we were not taught how to actually break it down. We would get that description of the client, the problem. We would go to the library. Well, you probably hit the internet nowadays. We would go to the library and do research, and we would pull out the books, and we would research and design and craft and write a case study style program that contained everything the client needed to know from today for the rest of their life. Problem is, it's too much information. And because we were taught to do that, we weren't taught to think critically in the moment of, what is the starting point? What is point number, where do we start now? Where do we go in 4 weeks? Where do we go 4 weeks after that? Where do we go? Where do we go? Where do we go? When will my client be ready to fly solo for a while before they need me again? We were not taught any of that. We were taught to give our client a 50-page research paper on their problem. It doesn't work like that. Because when you do that, it's overwhelming. Your client leaves the office thinking, I can do this. Yeah, I can do this. And it lasts for about 36 hours and they go, no, I can't. And the problem with the no, I can't is they have failed. They are not going to come back to you and say, couldn't do it, I failed. No one wants to admit they failed. Not you, not me, not our clients. And because our clients are not starting where we're at, they're starting where we were 20 years ago, right? They're not ready for everything you know. So you need to find a way to not overwhelm them. Have you ever seen your clients walk out with that deer in the headlights look, like they're so overwhelmed that they can't possibly do that? Here's the hard truth. When you fire hose your clients with too much information, you've successfully made their appointment and their health and their program all about you and your insecurities and your need to be proven right. You can hate me for saying that now. I give you permission. But you know what's going to happen is that when you actually learn how to chunk this down, to break their program into steps, less is more. It's going to be a hard lesson for you, but when you learn how to break this down into manageable steps, manageable in your client's eyes, not in your eyes. Those are two very different perspectives. Just give them what they need to get one step ahead. That's all they need. They don't need to know what's happening next year. Just what's the next step. You know that when they do that step, you know they're going to feel improvement. You know it's going to be measurable. It might be small, but it'll be measurable. It'll be consistent because they can do those changes consistently. And when they've had that success and they come back and they go, dang, you're right. You know, drinking 8 glasses of water instead of none took me a while to get there. And I would actually do that in steps as well, personally, for them. They're going to come back and go, after my body got used to it and I stopped having to go to the bathroom every 37 seconds, man, just drinking water, I have more energy. Yeah, guess what? They win and you win. Now they're ready for the next step. So chunk it down. That's how you start creating success. Smaller bits. Stumbling block number 2. You start your program. You start at the wrong place in their program. So does this sound familiar? You can't help them correct a leaky gut if the stomach isn't producing enough acid. You can't help them lose weight through diet and exercise if their intestinal flora is out of balance, right? Do you agree with these things? You can't help them if you start at the wrong place in their program. Make sense? When we don't know where the starting point is, we always overcompensate. It's doing a shotgun pattern instead of a laser pattern. When we don't know where to start, we pull the trigger on the shotgun and hope that some of the shot hits something that's important. Kathleen says, amen. Yeah, right? And so we need to learn how to start at the right place in the program. We need to figure out where's the beginning, and then what, and then what, and then what, and what is our first end point. That end point is where your client will be happy for maybe a few years before their body shifts enough that they want to come back and work again. And that's okay, because we don't necessarily need our clients and we don't necessarily want them coming back every 2 or 3 months for the rest of their life. I don't see that that's necessarily a good thing. I would rather see my client once a month for 4 or 5 or 6 months than send them off with a hug saying, you'll know when you need to come back. When things shift or when there's something happening that you don't like, it's called aging, come back. And that's exactly how I've retained clients for nearly 40 years. So we need to have a way to find the root of the problem. So the solution for stumbling block number 2 is this. You have to start at the beginning or at the root if you're going to help your client. You need to create a map for your eyes only. I call it the therapeutic sequence. And this is for you because you're sketching out in the notes you keep on your client. I do it in the margin of the page, actually. What I want to do in appointment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. What is the logical sequence that things need to happen in? If I write it down, I'll remember it for the next few appointments, right? Then every time they come in, I refer to those notes. I look at what did we do last appointment? What are the results? Are we ready to move on to step number 2 or 3 or wherever we're at in their sequence? But I have a roadmap. Now, this is really important. This is so important because the roadmap ends up being for your client, and this is why. At the end of appointment number 1, when you've given them that little piece, that little tiny bit of homework, 2 or 3 very specific things like increase your water to 4 glasses a day, have 1 leafy green salad every day, and walk for 20 minutes a day. End of discussion, no other changes. That's it. As they're leaving, you're going to say to them something like this. When we meet next month, if we're seeing the results I expect to see, we are going to move on to work on such and such. Step 2. Why do I do that? Because it tells the client 3 things. Number 1, it tells them that I've heard them clearly, because you know as well as I, the thing that I'm working on with my client is probably not the actual symptom they came in with. They might have maybe they came in with headaches, but I know that the headache is coming from constipation. So rather than me giving them a herb that's going to take the pain away, I want to work on the gut and get them pooping better, right? So when I say to them, we're going to do this, this is where we're starting, and I explain to them why we're starting there, that the headache comes from the constipation, we got to get them pooping. So I'm telling them that I've heard them clearly. We're starting here, then we're going there, and we've got more to do after that. So I've heard them clearly. I know that they don't think the problem is their bowel. They think it's their head. I've heard them. The second part of it is it tells them I have a plan. I'm not just guessing. I'm not shooting in the dark. I'm not making this up as I go. I have a plan. And the third thing is it tells them that they need to be on point with their homework. They will often say, I can do more than what you've given me. And I will say, I think you could, but I would rather you did this 100% or at least 90%, because that'll get us better results than if I gave you 6 or 8 things to do and you did them all at 10%. So let's just stay focused. I want you to stay focused on this homework. And that lets them understand that the onus is on them. I'm the teacher, they're the healer. Right? And so the onus is on them to do their homework. And because we've made the homework fairly small and fairly simple, 95% of the time my clients can follow through fairly well with it. Sometimes life gets in the way and we have to do some revamping partway through, but that's okay. And so we chunk it down and we make sure that our clients know we've heard them clearly. They know we've got a plan, but they've got to take action. Yeah, amen, Kathleen, right? You feel like you're in the church of nutrition teaching here, right? All right, stumbling block number 3. Some nutrition coaches use these computerized techno gizmo doodad things or the online questionnaire things. And, you know, I've had several different iterations of these thinking, oh, that's so cool. I love tech and I hate tech. Both, you know, my computers I could sometimes throw against the wall, but I do kind of like tech. And so I'd bring these things in, but you know what would happen is 2 things. Number 1, I would find that they were not very accurate, that I couldn't rely on what they were saying to be what we actually needed to do. And it was really hard to justify to my clients, well, the computer's program is saying this, but I really disagree because they're giving me these clues and I think we need to be over here instead. So that was a problem. And when my clients started coming in saying, do we get to do a scan today? I realized I could be replaced. And my ego was a little bit bigger than that. They could go and buy this equipment for $500 and have it in their home and do it on their own and cut me out completely. I didn't like that. So I got rid of all of it. I wanted to actually have that holistic rapport with my clients where we were connecting on that soul to soul level to understand what their needs were and to really help them. You know, I've got so many clients that I've seen for so many years that I know I could do their appointment in 15 minutes. I know I could, and I could do a good job of it, and we would do everything we needed, and they still book an hour. And I'll ask them sometimes, why do you need an hour? We could do this in 15 minutes over the phone. Oh, no. You're the only one who really listens to me. I'm happy to pay you for an hour because I know you'll listen. Okay, that is holistic, right? That is holistic. So I chucked all of these, the lengthy questionnaires and the computer gizmos and doodads. And actually, the only thing I have my clients fill in now is an informed consent form. 1 page, This is who I am. This is what I do. You know, I'm not going to diagnose, prescribe, or treat you for any health conditions. You need to seek medical advice for things, and give me your name, address, phone number, email, and sign this saying you've read it. Done. And we don't do questionnaires anymore. So what is the solution here? The solution to help you get rid of questionnaires, we're going to talk about that more in a minute, but to get rid of these techno gadgets is to learn how to ask the right questions. The problem with a questionnaire is it's a shotgun pattern again, right? It's asking questions all over the place. None of them are focused. And you have to then pull out of this list of 150 or 200 questions, depending on your questionnaire, what are the relevant answers to what we're working on? Because they're not all important to your client or to your client situation. There is more power in client-specific, well-designed questions than there ever will be in a questionnaire or a techno gadget. You know, a case in point here, my mother-in-law, who is a retired holistic practitioner, went to see another practitioner just recently who did some kind of, I think it was a Rife machine, which I don't know much about Rife, so I'm not dissing Rife, but this fellow set the program up and put my mother-in-law on this Rife machine, and she was really unwell for about 3 or 4 days. She's 87. She can't afford to be hit that hard with a program. It's got to be done gently. He wasn't sensitive to that at all, and it really caused some problems. And so that is one of the challenges of relying too heavily on technology, is it makes us not holistic. It helps to cut off our connection. So don't go there. In Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology, we spend time talking about and practicing, not just talking, but practicing, looking at a set of eyes, case histories, and what questions do you need to ask based on the case history, based on the eyes, what questions do you need answers to, right? Now, you can certainly work with creating your own questions without Iridology, and you could be very successful with that as well. Iridology will help you to laser the questions more appropriately. Stumbling block number 4, you are not unique. You blend in with the nutrition coaching crowd. Is that a great big fat ouch? That hurts? Because you know what, it's true. When you graduated from nutrition school with the other 20 or 30 or 40 students that were in your class, you graduated with the same credentials. Having a Facebook page does not make you unique. Having a book, having written a book, does not make you unique. Having meal plans does not make you unique. None of that makes you unique. You need to have other skills in your tool belt that make you stand out. Because you know what I noticed in school, and I want you to tell me if it's any different now, but when I went to nutrition school, they didn't teach us how to stand out. The extent of the business training was get business cards and have a bank account, right? There was nothing else, right, Kathleen? Right? They don't teach you how to build a business. They don't teach you anything about how to market yourself. And so I think that should be a key part of the curriculum. We actually talk about that in Confident Nutritionist and in some of the mentoring that we do around it. Because you know, you've got good skills. You've got good training. You know what you're doing. You just don't know how to stand out yet. So as we look at these things, we need to remember that most of us, and I'm guilty as charged here, most of us think that we need more training. We need, as in we need to get more nutrition. We need to get more specialized. We need to, you know, oh, there's, you know, this class is coming up, I'm going to take it. That class is going to come up and is coming up, I'm going to take it. And we think that by adding more nutrition training to our repertoire, we will become more marketable. And that's not necessarily the truth, because all the other nutritionists are doing the very same thing. Can't tell you how many tens of thousands of dollars and thousands of hours I've spent on courses that I actually don't even use. Because yeah, it was good information, but it's not the kind of thing that's going to help me. Kathleen says it's an add-on where I went, but I also have a business management degree. There you go. So Kathleen, you're ahead just by having that business management degree. So When we use dynamic iridology, it actually will help you to stand out. It'll help you to laser in on the questions you need to ask. It'll help you to create amazing and doable programs. So now you've got a bit of a choice here. You can keep on doing what you're doing and just hope that things are magically going to change while you keep working unpaid overtime and you continue missing time with loved ones so you can keep overwhelming your clients so they won't come back, while you get discouraged and keep thinking, I should just get a real job. I think that's what they call the definition of insanity. Or you can make some radical changes in what you do and how you think so you can ditch the overtime and have a life that actually includes time with your loved ones because you give your clients exactly what they need to succeed so they want to come back again and again while you think to yourself, I love the career I've created. The choice is absolutely yours. And this is where iridology, and specifically constitutional iridology, comes in. Constitutional iridology is so much more than an iridology course. It's also a mentorship program that can help you put an end to your unpaid homework. And it can help you integrate everything you already know about nutrition or herbology or whatever other training you've got. I know that when I figured this out after I took my constitutional iridology class and I started playing with the material and figured out how to integrate it, how to make it different from the other iridology I learned, how to make it work for me, it was a huge turning point. And because of that, all of my sessions are on time. My schedule is happily full. I don't donate time anymore. Sometimes I have a client come in with a problem I know nothing about and I want to do research because I want to understand it, but I'm not doing research for every client anymore. And you know, it's great because I also don't overwhelm my clients, so I'm not having to do 30-minute freebies between their sessions over the phone, trying to calm them down and talk them out of things and talk them into other things and trim their program back because I overdosed them on, you know, too many leafy greens in the first week. And so it's really become such a turning point for me. It's impacted my income. It's freed up time. It's given me a life, and it's wonderful. It's also filling my appointment book because, like I said, I don't advertise. I have clients that talk a lot, and that's wonderful. And it's amazing how those positive word of mouth referrals actually paid off. So you've obviously been with me for a while. I recognize most of your names from my Facebook group and places like that. And so the way I practice constitutional iridology includes understanding how to analyze the white of the eye, or the sclera. That's called sclerology, because the iris teaches us about the genetic influences in the body. The sclera teaches us about what's going on in the body right now. So when we combine these, we understand the iris gives us understanding as to why the client has symptoms, and the sclera gives us understanding as to why those symptoms are happening at this point in time. And so my first passion is, of course, helping my clients achieve their health goals. And my second, but equally strong passion, is coaching and mentoring nutrition coaches and herbalists and other holistic practitioners, just like you, to have the practice of your dreams. It's so important to me that I've seen so many nutritionists in the last few years give up and walk away and just go and get, quote unquote, a real job. When if we had been able to talk before they did that and got them into iridology, we could have totally turned that around for them. I truly believe that. It's true that constitutional iridology is going to help you use the other modalities you already have more effectively and with more confidence to create the kind and size of nutrition or holistic health coaching business that you want and that you deserve. So just in case you're really new to iridology, how many of you are really new to this? You've heard about it, but you don't know anything else. I want to see just a yes if you're new to the concept of iridology. Put that in the chat box for me. Elizabeth is pretty new, and so is Teresa. Okay, anybody else pretty new? The rest of you have a bit of background, maybe? Okay, well, let me walk you through 2 quick case studies. This is just how quick this goes when you understand iridology and your client. So this is one of my 3rd generation clients, a little 2-year-old girl. And her mother brought her in to me. Now I know her mom very well because I helped her mom through the pregnancy. And I actually helped the grandma through the pregnancy with the mom. So like I said, 3 generations. So this little girl is being raised in an amazingly loving home. Mom and a dad there who both love her to pieces. She's got a big sister. This is the younger daughter in the family. They have amazing nutrition. I tease them and say I want to go live with them because they eat better than I do. And the mom is very well versed in herbs and vitamins and things, and she gives the children supplements as warranted. And so she brought this little darling into me, and she said she's been getting sick a little more often and she's a little more whiny. And so I looked at the eyes, and first off, I looked and I saw all these wrinkles that come around here. These wrinkles tell me this is a little girl who functions in her parasympathetic nervous system a lot. Everything becomes a crisis very easily, or she internalizes everything as a crisis, which means she burns through her B vitamins, vitamin C, calcium, and magnesium very quickly. This little spot over here is what we call a fermentation spot, which says that she doesn't process her carbohydrates well. She tends to ferment them rather than digesting them. And so knowing that her diet was clean, I asked her mom, where's she getting carbs from? And her mom is well trained enough. Her mom actually wrote a really great cookbook. And her mom said, well, she's getting the carbs from fruit. She's a fruit addict. And I said, okay, that's making sense. So that's all I needed to ask. The rest of it was chit chat, catching up, finding out what this little darling had been up to. And then I just said, okay, I looked at her eyes and I said, okay, well, we need to do a liquid methylated B. She's not going to swallow a capsule or tablet yet. She's too little. So let's do a liquid methylated B to work with giving her her vitamin B and her vitamin C. And let's get her a couple of tablespoons of hemp hearts every day so that we can pick up some omega-3 and some protein and some more B vitamins. And let's take away any of the high sugar fruit and let's replace it with berries. Would she do that? Mom was, oh yeah, she loves berries. Okay, great. So let's do strawberries and raspberries and blueberries, but especially strawberries and raspberries is where we want to focus. That was all we did with her. And that was exactly how quick it was. Once I got these photos of her eyes, that is how quick it was. And the mom sent me an email a few days later. I said, no, you got to keep in touch with me. Let me know how this goes. This is one of those families that I love, and I will tweak their program in between sessions if we need to, just because I love them so much. And so I said to her, let me know how it goes. And within about 3 days, I got an email from her saying, oh my goodness, you've given me my little girl back. She is so sweet. She's totally settled. And it was like, yeah. She just, even though she's being well fed, her nutritional demands are higher than what her diet was meeting. And so we did that, and it was just everything we needed to do. And it was just that quick. One more case, and then we're going to talk about the course that's coming up. So Kathleen has weighed in here and she says she's done iridology about 40 years ago, hasn't done it since, don't know much. And 40 years ago, we practiced a different way. We did different things. So what you'll find is that in the course, Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology Assessment System, the information is very different from what you learned 40 years ago. And I know that because it's totally different from what I learned 40 years ago, right? Okay, so this is a female client, mid-30s. And she came to me, she wanted to be pregnant. She and her hubby had been trying for a full year with no success. And so knowing that, trying to get pregnant, you ask all of the usual suspect questions of what are your periods like and things like that. And one thing that really piqued my interest was I asked her, your periods regular? Yes, they're about 35 days apart. Okay, that's manageable. I said, what's your flow like? And she said, well, I have spotting on the tissue when I go to the bathroom. I said, you don't even need a panty liner? She said, no, it's really almost nothing. Okay, red flag number 1, right? And the doctors have not twigged in on this yet. So I'm looking at her eyes. And again, I see these wrinkles coming around in her eyeball, right? These creases in both of her eyes. And so I asked her, tell me about anxiety and stress. Well, she's an HR professional, so human resources, and she stresses over everything. Absolutely everything is a major crisis. So that was one thing I needed to work with. Then there's a tiny little marking that's really hard to see. It's right here that told me that she probably has the MTHFR defect. Now, you might know that that means methyl tetrahydrofolate. That's an enzyme deficiency in the liver. So she can't take folic acid and turn it into a usable form of folate, nor can she take cyanocobalamin and turn it into methylcobalamin, which means that she doesn't get the most effective forms of her folate and her B12. And so I saw that and I'm going, that's interesting because I know that MTHFR defect affects fertility. Okay. And then again, we reiterated the hormonal stuff and the minimal flow and had she had an ultrasound just check the endometrial lining, and they said, yes, it was on the thin side, but probably manageable. I'm going, probably manageable. Like, I don't think so. And so we added herbs to her to build her endometrial lining and to balance her hormones because they were clearly out of whack. So specifically, with her, I put her on a prenatal vitamin that has the methylated Bs in it. This was a really fun story because, and we did a few other things. We made sure she was getting more omega. She has a really clean diet, by the way. She's a vegan and wasn't getting enough protein. So we had to coach her on building her protein. And then we did a little liver support in the form of N-acetylcysteine with her as well. And she did get pregnant. And it was interesting because before she got pregnant, I got this email from her. It was like, I can't believe it. And I said, can't believe what? And she said, I actually need a panty liner. I'm going, yes, we win. We win. Because that means your endometrial lining is thicker. We need it to be nice and thick so this embryo has a place to burrow in when you conceive. So that was exciting. Partway through her pregnancy, she sent me an email that was totally vibrating with anxiety. And I literally, my computer just about blew up with it. And she said, I've done 23andMe and I just got the test results back. And it says I have the MTHFR defect. And I'm going, yes, so. And she's going on, I'm so concerned. Like, what about my baby? Is my baby okay? And I had to talk her down. Deep breath, calm down, sing to your baby, dance with your baby. I know your baby's still in utero, but sing and dance and read stories. And remember, I put you on that B vitamin, that prenatal vitamin that had those Bs in it. She said, yeah. I said, I figured you were MTHFR from the first time we met. I've had your back on this. You have nothing to worry about. And she went, oh, okay. So very cool. And the appointments were, most of our appointments with her were listening to her work out her anxiety. I knew what we were going to be doing. I knew from her eyes. I knew from her symptoms. I knew from her temperature charts because I had her do her basal temperature. I knew exactly what we would be doing. I could have covered it with her in 10 minutes, but she needed the talk time. That is how easy this is. How long did that take me to talk through with you? Like 5 minutes? That's the whole program, right? And you can tweak it each time you see them. You don't even have to look at their eyes again necessarily, right? I often will, because I've got a camera, and you don't need to don't buy an Iridology camera. Don't buy any Iridology equipment. Not yet, okay? But because I teach, I've got the cameras, right? And so I almost always pull the client's photos up on my computer to be looking at them while we are talking so that I can just be doing a quick, yep, check, I see that, okay, I understand that, great. The eyes and what she's telling me tell me we need to go this direction. Okay, pretty quick and easy when you know the Iridology. So you ready? You ready to learn about the upcoming course? Yeah. You with me? Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology Assessment System. If you are ready to make some radical changes in what you know and how you implement it, hang on, because I want you to imagine as we're doing this, like you've not just got the knowledge, but you've got the confidence to create huge success in your clients' lives and in your own. And imagine what it would be like to be mentored and as you learn how to make this all work. What would it feel like to not be doing this by yourself? When you graduated from CSNN, do they have ongoing mentorship after that? I don't know of very many places that offer ongoing. We'll talk about what that means here. Confident Nutritionist, the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System, is the only 20-week, fully mentored constitutional iridology training program for holistic practitioners like you that is designed to help you incorporate what you already know about herbology and or nutrition while mastering iridology and while building your confidence as a practitioner. The goal here is to help you streamline your clinical work without sacrificing client care. The goal here is to make sure that you are actually able to access what you already know as well. So many times when we take a class, it's a standalone class. It doesn't connect to anything else we've ever done. And unless you're totally in love with that, you end up often shelving it and not using it. That is not how this works. This is about helping you access what you already know as well. So what is this program? It's a step-by-step course that teaches constitutional iridology in a logical and sequential manner. The program is delivered via 20 live 2-hour-long webinars, and it contains all of the curriculum that you need to take the IPA, that's the International Iridology Practitioners Association certification exam, if you so choose. Now, some of my students want to certify and some of them don't, and it does not matter to me what they decide because they all get the same teaching, they all get the same support, they all get the same mentoring. And those that want to certify, I will support them through that process as well, right? If you go to the IPA website, you're going to see they say you have to have level 1 and level 2. That's exactly what my curriculum covers. I just prefer doing it as one course because I don't want my students quitting after one level. I want them to get the whole thing. You will learn so much in this course. This is the core of what the course contains, and a lot of these words will probably be meaningless to you right now. Lesson 1 is an introduction with the history of iridology and eye anatomy. Lessons 2 through 4, we talk about the constitutions and the constitutional subtypes. So there's 3 main constitutions, and there are 10 different subtypes that we learn here. Then we talk in lesson 5 about pigments, so different colors we see in the eyes. Because when we understand the different colors, we understand which organs are inherently predisposed to be out of balance and cause stress. And we understand which other organs are carrying the brunt of that stress. In lessons 6 through 8, we learn 8 different fiber variations, and those of you who have a bit of iridology, they used to call these lesions. We now call them lacunae, but we learn 15 different lacunae. Understanding fiber structures and lacunae helps us to understand further what has been passed down, because we talk about the eyes as being inherent, which means they show us information that goes back 3 to 4 generations. So we can actually say, anybody on your mother's side of the family have problems like this? Anyone on your father's side of the family have problems like that, just based on where we see the markings in the eyes. In lesson 9 and 10, we learn about the nervous system and how the digestion shows up in the eyes as well. Lessons 11 through 13, we learn more about the nervous system and about how the body assimilates nutrients and how those things show up in the eyes. So you can look at someone's eyes and you can talk about, is there a personal history of irritable bowel syndrome or of leaky gut? Or are you prone to a lot of intestinal cramping or a lot of gas? Or your eyes suggest you might be prone to constipation. Do you know what your bowel transit time is? Right? And so the collarette teaches us a lot about that. We look at the humeral and ciliary zones as well. That's going to teach us about how the muscles and the organs in the body actually use nutrients. And depending on if we see pigments or fiber variations there, it'll tell us whether there's the personal genetic risk of something going on or whether there's an inherent risk of something going on there. In lesson 15, we talk about contraction furrows. Contraction furrows teach us a lot about the nervous system, about where a body might be more prone to pain or spasms, and about certain other particular predispositions based entirely on the shape and the placement of the contraction furrows. Lesson 16, we talk about syndromes and zone 7. And the syndromes, when we understand syndromes, we understand if there's a greater risk for example, kidney and heart interconnections, or things like that, pancreas issues, for instance. And so if we know that there's a predisposition and the client has no symptoms, then we can actually begin coaching them preventively. Now, how fun is that to be able to say your eyes suggest blah, blah, blah. And so I'm going to recommend we start doing blah, blah, blah. You know, is there a personal or family history of this kind of a problem? Then let's just add a little more of this into your diet as a bit of a preventive. Lesson 17, we talk about how eyes change. Eyes do change, but they don't change the way so many people claim they do, using very poorly done before and after photos, or maybe even on purpose manipulated before and after photos. Lessons 18 and 19, we learn all about the sclera, the different types of markings we see in the sclera, and how they teach us about dynamic things that are going on in the body right now. And in lesson 20, we do a wrap up to make sure that you've got everything under your belt and you know what to do next. So the program, again, is delivered via 20 live 2-hour-long webinars. So that's 40 hours. Now, if you had to go and do a course somewhere, not that that's going to happen right now with all the lockdowns, but play with me. We're going to imagine there's no lockdowns happening. The borders are open. You can take a course where you want to go. So if you had to go somewhere to take a 40-hour course, that would probably be offered over 5 or 6 days. You're going to have your tuition. And if you go online, you're going to find other IPA certified instructors teaching the same, I'm not going to say the same curriculum, the same core curriculum without all the extra stuff that I throw in. And they're charging anywhere between $1,200 and $2,200 US. Now, just a show of hands, I know a couple of you are in Canada. Are any of you located in the US? You don't even have to tell me where, just put USA if you're in the States. Or if you're in England, put UK. If you're in England, you're up way past your bedtime. Okay, so we've got one. Okay, so this is good. I will make sure I talk about the US dollar here then as well. Canadians already understand the exchange rates. Typically, Americans typically don't understand it coming back the other way. So tuition will be between $1,200 and $2,200 US. Again, taught by certified instructors, so it should be a good course. But those tuitions don't include your airfare. From where I live, airfare to anywhere is at least $500 one way. Hotel, probably at least $700 US. Meals, I'm a cheapo when I travel. I always go to the local store and buy my groceries and eat in my room. So 30 bucks a day. So it's like $200 for a week. Ground transportation, if I need to get from the airport to the hotel and back, probably, you know, $100-ish. What about travel insurance, depending on your age? Time off work, if you have to take a whole week off work, what's that going to cost? Did you leave any expenses at home? Childcare, pet care, elder care? Right? So there's a lot of expenses, and those expenses, if you had to travel to take a course, typically are going to it's going to tally up to be like $6,000, $5,000 or $6,000. So I've also found, and tell me if this is true for you, that doing a really long intensive course doesn't work for me. You know, I start absorbing, I have all the best intentions of taking all kinds of notes, of using the handouts and adding notes in the margins, and I do that really well for the first day and a half, and then my brain starts to go mushy. And by the end of day 2, I'm thinking, I hope there's recordings I can buy. And by the end of day 3, I'm thinking I should just go sightseeing and buy the recordings, right? Any of you have that problem with long, intense programs and courses? I sure do. And so I find that it works much better to learn a couple of hours worth, practice it, study it, figure out if I've got questions, then come back and ask those questions and build on it. So the curriculum alone is worth $23.95 Canadian. Now we're going to talk about that conversion from Canadian to the US in just a moment. And, you know, it's just really important that you understand that the value of this class. This is a naturopath. She's a graduate of mine. She'd already taken iridology as a part of her naturopathy studies. And this is what she said: due to this course, Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology surpassed my previous training in structure, content, delivery, documentation, and support. Iridology has certainly reduced the time required for prioritizing a treatment plan. It has been a huge game changer to my practice. Love it. Love it. That's what I like to hear. And Karen Choate, again, we met her a little bit earlier, but she shared this with me. I just returned from a regenerative detoxification course where iridology is implemented. I spread the word about what a wonderful teacher you are. Most people I taught with did not have anywhere near the same experience with their iridology education. They got no support, they have unanswered questions, and a lot of confusion. Mostly they finished their classes not knowing how to implement what they had learned. I feel so absolutely blessed to have been taught by you. I feel totally supported, even still as I have graduated almost 3 years ago now. I don't think there's anyone out there practicing, educating, and teaching iridology like you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, right? So the level of mentoring afterwards. She also went on to say, when I asked on the Facebook group, the student Facebook group, how has constitutional iridology helped them? And she says, iridology has helped me to understand the relationships between the different organs and organ systems more in depth. Iridology also gives me the advantage of seeing the potential for different genetic traits and qualities that may be underlying. By observing the constitution, for example, you can extrapolate how the person's body will likely respond to applications of healing methods. Therefore, it has helped me to expand my knowledge and increase my efficiency at providing more precise recommendations for health-oriented options. I love that so much. Awesome. This is what a class looks like. It looks like just what we're doing right now, except that I have my students turn on their cameras and their microphones. And I have my camera on too, so you see whether it's a makeup day or a non-makeup day, just saying. And we have a conversation back and forth. We talk, I teach, we talk, they ask questions, I do pop quizzes with them. We have it go back and forth. And so very live, very interactive. Is that the kind of learning that you do best with? Do you like live interactive where you can ask questions and hear what other people are saying and thinking and see how that plays for you? Is that something that works well for you? What else do you get? What if a concept doesn't stick? So we do 2 hours once a week. It still is a heavy 2 hours, right? There's a lot of content there. And Kathleen is saying, yes, interactive is good. Thank you, Kathleen. So every class is recorded and stored on a student website, not the Facebook page, but on a student site. That has a value of $23.95. It's getting the class a second time, only this time with dialogue and with questions and with answers. And in case there's just one little concept that doesn't stick, because we typically cover between 5 and 10 small concepts per class, every topic has its own recording. And those recordings are also stored on your student site. So if you need to review just one little piece, you can go back to that little recording, see all the examples, hear all the explanation. And again, it's like getting the course a third time. So a value of $23.95. When you go to university, you have to buy or rent your own textbooks, right? I remember back in university, that was expensive. That was the expensive part of the year. Tuition was nothing compared to the textbooks. Most iridology teachers make you purchase a textbook, and the textbooks that they usually recommend right now, there's 2 that are very popular, run about $275 Canadian. These are all in Canadian dollars right here. And so I wrote a textbook. And the cool thing about when an IPA teacher writes a textbook is they have to submit their textbook to the IPA Qualities and Standards Committee to make sure that it's up to snuff. Mine passed the first time with no corrections. I was so happy. But rather than it has a $275 value. It's a 200-page book, but it's digital. So you get to download it. Some of my students take it to the printer and print it up, and I'm fine with that. Whatever you need to do to make it work for you, $275 value. Cheat sheets. Did you ever use Cole's Notes or Cliff Notes in university or high school? I never did. I didn't even know what they were. I think I missed out on slacking off on studying. But just in case you like to have a more condensed version of the class where all of the content is just in charts and tables, I created the cheat sheets. So 45 pages of curriculum content condensed down into really easy to use graphs and charts, and that has a value of $175 Canadian. The private Facebook group and the office hours webinars. Oh my goodness, why is this worth $20,000 combined? Now, some of you might be thinking that's a pretty ego-filled number. I'm thinking, no, not really. The reason for that is when you're a student, you are of mine and you are registered in the program, you get invited into the Facebook group. And even after you've graduated, even after you certify, you aren't ever kicked out, right? So you can keep coming back, and most of my students keep coming back years after they graduate to leave comments, to weigh in on things, and it's just great. The Facebook group is a place for students to ask questions in between classes if they want, or after they've graduated. The office hours webinars, we hold them right now, we're having 2 a month. And this is where students can present cases they're working on or ask questions. Graduates can present cases and ask questions. So this is ongoing mentoring. Now, I'm not planning on retiring soon. I have way too much fun teaching. And so I see this going for several years yet. And it's my way of mentoring you after you finish the program, right? So that's why it's worth so much. All of the office hours webinars are recorded and they are stored on the student site for 18 months, and then they're rolled off to make room for the new ones coming in. So that's another value of $23.95 Canadian. So if you're really good at doing math, let's see what Susan says first. Susan came to me as a master herbalist, and this is what she says. Judith made learning iridology easy with her step-by-step system of assessing the iris. She is positive and encouraging to her students while holding their feet to the fire on occasion to help them through the thinking process. I do. I like holding my students' feet to the fire. Judith doesn't just teach identification of markings and what they mean. She goes a step further to teach how to use that information to create a health plan when working with clients. Okay, so that's the value of it. So let's talk about Exam 1 and Exam 2 mentoring. For my students who want to certify with IPA, IPA requires 3 levels of exams. The first one is 10 case studies, which I provide for you. You do write-ups, you send them back to me, I mark them, and then you and I have a private meeting one-on-one on Zoom to go over your work and to make sure that you've got everything just exactly where it belongs. And when you and I both agree that you've got this, then I release for you IPA Exam 2, which is, and Kathleen, I'll come to your question in just a moment. IPA Exam 2, which is case study, IPA gives to me to give to you. You do the case study and you'll never do iridology that way again. It's strictly for testing purposes. You send it back to me. I mark it. We meet again one-on-one in order to be able to make sure you're rock solid. After that has happened, if you still want to continue certifying, then you need to purchase a student membership from IPA. I will let IPA know that you have done all the prerequisites and that you're ready. And then you can apply to IPA and pay the exam 3 fee and do the 3rd exam, which is an online exam through IPA. Okay, so that is the mentoring process. Kathleen says, will we have access to the newer classes going forward when our 18-month access to our own classes ends? So you're talking about the office hours call, so the extra mentoring. And what that means is you never get kicked out of the office hours recording either. At the end of when you start your actual class work with me, you will have access to that actual set of class information with your class recordings for 18 months from the start of your class. At the end of the 18 months, you will be migrated to the alumni site, which will have all the curriculum content, but it has no class recordings. And I only do that because I keep the alumni site completely up to date, meaning if I've made a correction in the textbook for something, sometimes IPA adds curriculum that we need to be teaching, so I will update the textbook. I keep the textbook on the alumni site up to date, and current students get the up-to-date textbook, but I don't go back and update all the previous cohorts because that would take a month of Sundays. Okay, so you do have access to all the most up-to-date curriculum information and to the office hours, which means that if you have a question, and even if we've already covered it in office hours, who cares? Ask it again, right? Let's make sure you get your answers. That's what we need here. All right. Most IPA instructors charge extra for the exam mentoring. So they charge their $1,200 to $2,200 for the course, and then you'll find that most of them charge between $500 and $1,000 to mentor you for your exams, because this is a huge time commitment on the part of the instructor. Again, if you decide that you're going to certify, you need to purchase your own student membership and you'll need to pay for your own exam fee. And I will take you through all of this process with you as well. And we'll review all of this in the class when you're in it. So what does that mean? The total value of just not including the actual tuition is almost $29,000. If we include everything on this page, the value of this program is $31,000. $31,000. Now, I'm pretty sure I could sell it for this. I might only sell it to 2 people in a year, but I'm pretty sure I could sell it for this because of the amount of mentoring that I give and because of the way my students talk up what I've been doing with them, kind of like my clients do. But that would defeat my purpose. My purpose is to help people who have good hearts and good training do more good out there, right? And so that means I needed to come up with a more equitable starting point. And that means that the tuition is actually $23.95 Canadian. So let's talk about these Canadian dollars. Those of you who are in Canada, you already know what this means. You're not paying in American dollars. You are breathing a huge sigh of relief and you are happy, doing the happy dance right now, right? Those of you in the States, your dollar is worth more than ours. And so when you go to register for the program and you click the PayPal button and you enter your payment information, you will be pleasantly surprised that the number that comes back to you on your credit card is going to be about 25% less than $23.95. It's actually going to come out to about $1,800 US. And so you're doing the happy dance now because, golly, you just saved nearly $600 by having a Canadian teacher, which is very, very cool. If you're in the UK, that's about 1,400 British pounds sterling. And if you're in Australia, it's about 25.50 Australian dollars. Now, some of you, anyone interested in maybe the potential of a payment plan? What do you think? Someone always says, is there a payment plan? And yeah, Kathleen is saying, yeah. Okay, so assuming that maybe you don't have $23.95 Canadian sitting in your back pocket, just waiting to purchase a fabulous course, you can do it in 5 payments of $549 Canadian. Okay, and so what does that look like if we're doing currency conversion? There you go. You can see what it is roughly. Don't hold me to this to the penny, because if you know anything about the currency markets, they fluctuate on a nanosecond by nanosecond basis. Okay, so the next course starts on Wednesday, October 7th. It runs 5 to 7 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. We do 20 sessions. We'll take 2 weeks off over Christmas break. If you know right now that you want the course, pop on over to iridology.education/enroll1 and you can get yourself registered. Now, the reason I'm encouraging you to do that is, oh, and I didn't update this slide. My apologies for that. Is that I only accept 10 students in the class, and we do have some spots filled already. And so when we hit 10 students, we just close off registration. Everybody else goes on to a wait list. So We want to make sure that if you want the class that you get in on it, and going to this site will give you the choice of the 1 payment or the 5 payments, okay? Registration will be closing for sure on October 5th because we need to make sure we get everybody's contracts in and get everybody onboarded in time. Here is what another one of my delightful students said. This is the lovely Michelle Davies. She says, I've studied iridology with David Pesic, and she had certificates from him and from Dr. Darko Purse. She came to me well certified. She said, most importantly, first off, Judith's course is top on my list. Yay, go me. But most importantly, my course taught her how to put it all together and make a proper assessment, which is brilliant. She's got so much good training under her belt, and I'm just so excited that she's using iridology. Stephanie came to me. She has a master's degree in education. And this is what she said: I have several books on iridology, and I tried to teach myself, spent hours online on YouTube watching various portions of classes and presentations. They were so conflicting and confusing and overwhelming. I told my husband, this is beyond me. I'm not getting this at all. Now, Stephanie has posted a really nice testimonial on my YouTube page, so you can go and find her there. She talks down here about a practical, well-designed curriculum. PACE lets you retain information. We practice, practice, practice. What I didn't realize until Stephanie posted her testimonial was that her husband had been saying, well, if you want the course, take it. And she was saying, but things are really tight right now. We can't afford it. And he said, if you want the course, take it. And while she was at work one day, he actually registered her for the course. So I thought that was great. And so I just really appreciated that she did that, or that he did that for her. So how's it sounding so far? What do you think? Class starts October 7th. Now let's look at some really common questions. And if you've got questions that you want to ask, please put them in the chat box, because again, we want this in. Kathleen says she's in. Yes, yes. Fabulous, Kathleen. Looking forward to having you in the program. Or if some of you are not quite sure, you're thinking, sounds really good, but I'm not quite sure, then book a call with me. Go to this calendly.com, dynamic iridology /insight call. Go there. I'm going to put that down here because it's kind of a cranky URL. There we go. Book a call. Let's have a conversation. Let's see if this program is really the right fit. If you already know that it is, you're convinced already, then just hop on over and get your spot reserved. That is so important. I want you to know that I'm no different than you. I started my business from scratch. I did it the way I was taught, and I made mistakes along the way. But I have developed a tested and proven plan, and I've used it for over 3 decades, and I've been teaching it for years and years for assessing my clients' needs and for creating programs that they can be successful with and streamlining my client work. This is so important. And I share this happily so that you don't have to be frustrated the way I was. Here's that enrollment link again. Whoops, let me pop back here. Just really quickly. This one is pretty easy. Yeah, I tried to grab it from the wrong place. You can't copy it from the screen. You have to copy it from the notes. There we go. So there you go. If you know you're in, then there we have it. Remember why you're here today, because you maybe don't feel as confident as you want to, and you're tired of that imposter syndrome, and you know you can do this. You just need some help figuring it out. Or maybe you're here because you're tired of all of that overtime that you're spending that's not paying the bills, that's not giving you the life you dreamed of, and you really, really want to have the business you planned on having. Or maybe you're here because you're tired of constantly having to find new clients. You want that appointment book to be happily full. You want your clients to be doing your advertising for you because they love you, they love what you're doing with them. Maybe you're here because you don't want to have to find a real job. You don't like that thought in the back of your brain. And again, you know you can do this, you just don't know exactly how. Here is the little gift I promised you, right? And so this is This is actually super, super simple. Sometimes it's the simplest things that are the best. So we're going to have you pop on over to this URL to grab this little gift. You're thinking it just looks like a piece of paper. And I'm thinking this is organization on paper. So the numbers down the left-hand side are appointment numbers. Appointment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We go all the way down to 10. Start a new page if you need to. And you're going to put the date of the appointment in here. So you've got 2 rows for appointment number 1. If you know Iridology, then in this column, you're going to write down which are the Iridology markings that have twigged you, that have tweaked your brain, that you know you need to be teaching your client about to help them get the progress you want them to have. And down here, when you know Iridology, you're going to list appointment 1, we're working with this marking, this marking. Appointment 2, we're looking at this marking, this marking. Appointment 3, we're looking at these, right? So this is your therapeutic priorities or your therapeutic sequences page. Then here you've got a little space for diet recommendations, a little space for supplements, and a little space for lifestyle. This is the magic of this page. If your recommendations take more than this amount of space to write out, it's too much information for your client. Makes sense? If it doesn't fit here, it's not going to work. It's too much. And you can't write microscopically small. I know the tricks. And so you just write in a fairly normal pen. And, you know, this limits you. It helps you to chunk it down. So you can hop on over and get that downloaded. Now, if you have a problem with that, if for some reason it's not working, let me know and I'll make sure you get it. Just shoot me an email. Okay, let's answer some questions. All right. There's always questions. I live in a time zone that puts the class at midnight where I live. Can I still sign up for this course and be successful? Absolutely. We have students from all over the world, and some of them are in time zones that I would love to visit, but it's just not quite working for them. And Kathleen has just checked in. She says, I'm still on Zoom, but I clicked the sign up link and I still hear you but can't see you. I can't click to sign up or get the forms. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you went to iridology.education/enroll1, Kathleen. And if we don't get it resolved while we're on the webinar, I will spend time with you as soon as we're off and make sure that we get this done for you. Okay. Enroll has 2 L's. I don't know, I can't see it. Okay, so Kathleen, if you don't get it sorted out, I will come back and make sure I'll deal with you, young lady. I'll help you in the Facebook chat and make sure that you get in, alrighty? I'm not gonna leave you hang. Okay, and so, yeah, I've got students who sign up for the course and they live all over the world. They listen to the class recordings, they join us on the office hours when they can. Okay, and they're being very successful because they know they can ask questions as often as they need to in the Facebook group and in office hours. All right, so yes, how long will it take me to go through the entire course? 20 weeks for the course. And then I give you 10 months after that to finish your certification. My experience is that students who take longer than that don't finish. So I hold your feet to the fire to make sure if you want to certify that you get it done. How much time per week do I need to set aside to complete the program? Well, at least 2 hours for class and 2 to 3 hours to practice assessing the eyes. Now, I just want to pop in here, and I'm hoping this isn't going to mess things up. I just want to make sure the link is working. Oh, no, did that wrong, didn't I? I actually did test this beforehand, and yes, this should be the page that you should be seeing when you click that link. So if it's not working, Kathleen, I'm going to have to help you with that, and we will solve that. I'm going out of town next month. Will I fall too far behind? Absolutely not, because you know what? You can actually join us from any time zone, listen to the recordings. Absolutely. How do I know if this course is right for me? Well, if you're a nutritionist, a herbalist, or a naturopath, and if you're looking for a proven way to assess your client needs quickly and easily, if you want to eliminate the unpaid homework time, or if you just want to learn the most scientifically up-to-date form of iridology there is, then this course is for you. When will you know enough to be able to start using what you learn? Well, by the end of the second lesson, I'm hoping you're practicing with everybody. I'm hoping you are using it because you will, by the end of the second lesson, know enough to start using what you learned. Well, you know everything, of course not, but you need to start using it right away. What else do I need to buy for this course? Well, we're looking at, it's about $50 to $60 worth, and typically right about now I should be posting on the Facebook page what you need, and it is a lighted magnifying glass and a separate pen light, and that is it. I'll post examples of that in the Facebook group. What if I don't like it? Can I get a refund? Well, because my mandate is to make this one of the best learning experiences you've ever had, and because this is a course for professionals, no, there are no refunds. Here we go again to register for the course, iridology.education/enroll1, or if you feel like you need to have a little chat with me, this is not a sales pressure chat, this is just to figure out if this is really the right thing for you, then book a call with me. And there are links again. Thank you so much for being with me today. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you've learned something useful. And I look forward to seeing many of you in the class starting on October 7th. Take good care and have a good evening. And Kathleen, I'm going to jump over to the Facebook chat to help you with this. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.